There is no doubt that assistance with service navigation is crucial for culturally diverse communities. Lack of service availability awareness, not knowing where to start when seeking support or who to ask for assistance is what makes self-service navigation risky and challenging for multicultural people. MiAccess Disability Gateway and the Disability Liaison Officer program has been assisting people with disability throughout the pandemic, offering health, disability, culturally tailored and translated information to people with disability. Through this collaborative workshop, the Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria helps to increase the awareness of these services amongst culturally and linguistically diverse background people with disability, carers and families, ethno-specific organizations, and the broader disability sector. And now I would like to introduce our first presenters, Mackenzie Small, Partnership Specialist, and Misha Stemper, Partnerships Coordinator from the Disability Gateway. Welcome, guys.
Hi, thank you so much, Nemo, and thank you so much to the Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria for having us here today. We're very excited to be sharing with you a little bit more about Disability Gateway and what we do. So we will be sharing our screen. There will be plenty of time for questions, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat, but we will definitely have time for them towards the end of our time. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and we'll be on our way. So this presentation will be giving you an overview of what the Disability Gateway does, how we support people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, some of the pieces of work that we have been working towards, and to just share a little bit more about what we do. But firstly, who are we? I'm Mackenzie, the Partnership Specialist here, and we've got Misha, our Partnership Coordinator. Together, we manage the Disability Gateway's relationships with government, peak bodies, disability organisations, and really work to establish and maintain the referral pathway networks across the country. We're both presenting to you today on Gadigal land. That does bring us to our acknowledgement. So the Benevolent Society acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander continuing connection to land, waters and community. And we pay our sincere respects to elders, both past, present and emerging, and extend a very warm welcome to any First Nation guests in the audience today. So I will be passing over to Misha just to give a little bit of an overview about who we are and what we do. So over to you.
What is the Disability Gateway? If you're not familiar, the Disability Gateway is a service that offers assistance to people with disability, their family, friends, and carers to find the support they need in Australia. It's no secret that the sector is quite large and complex, and the information isn't necessarily easy to navigate. So the Disability Gateway has been designed to improve navigation, to access relevant information and services. We span multiple sectors, including health, housing, employment, transport, and everyday living, which enables our service to work with an individual across many areas of life. We exist as a central entry point for referrals to disability information, services, and programs. We're able to offer validated referral pathway information to support services and programs. So who can call the Disability Gateway? Anyone can call the Disability Gateway, including anyone who identifies as having a disability, their family, friends, and their carers. Our service also includes those with psychosocial disability, as well as those whose disability may intersect with other diverse cohorts, such as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, people who identify as LGBTIQ+, people living in remote and regional areas of Australia, as well as people from a culturally and linguistically diverse background. Our service also is available to professionals, organizations, and providers within the disability sector. The Benevolent Society is the provider of the Disability Gateway nationally. We offer a phone line. It's available Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, except for national public holidays. We have a website, which is managed by the Department of Social Services, as well as email and a message bank, which is available for after hours, weekends, or public holidays, where a community services consultant will reach back to you the following business day. So both our phone line and our email part of our service offer a one-on-one personalized approach to support. Translating and interpreting services. So there are two ways that you can access an interpreter to use the Disability Gateway service. The first would be to call the Disability Gateway on 1-800-643-787. A community services consultant will answer in English, and they'll be able to dial in an interpreter for you or for a family member. The other option is to call TIS, Translating and Interpreting Services, on 1-31450. You'll be prompted to answer what language you're needing. You'll then be connected with an operator who will then find an interpreter for you. And I'll pass over to Mackenzie now.
So what are the areas of life that the Disability Gateway assists with? So on the Disability Gateway website, you'll see these 10 areas of life. So that includes income and finance, employment, aids and equipment, housing, transport, health and wellbeing, which includes allied, physical and mental health, everyday living, education, leisure, as well as rights and legal services. It's important to note that often these domains will intersect with one another. So for example, someone might need assistance regarding housing and they'll need income and finance support through the Commonwealth Rent Assist payment. Or for example, someone with a disability experiencing discrimination regarding their employment might need rights and legal support through either a legal aid or an advocate. One of the areas of life that we assist with that's not outlined on those 10 areas of life is all the work that we've been doing during the coronavirus pandemic. So the Disability Gateway has been providing information and support to people with disability, their families, friends and carers during the global pandemic. And this includes assistance with vaccination bookings, so assisting people with disability over the phone to find their local clinic and booking in their vaccination appointments. It's including information on public health orders and restrictions, so really helping the community to keep up to date with current restrictions across all domains of life. Linking to in-home COVID-19 vaccination and testing support. So this was really looking at people that might be socially isolated or for whatever reason their condition might leave them bedbound or housebound and couldn't actually access the vaccine or testing at one of the clinics and hubs. So we were able to create referral pathways to link into programs such as the DLO, to primary health networks and local jurisdictional supports to be able to link them in with that service. We've also been connecting clients with accessible vaccination and testing hubs. So that might be low sensory spaces, wheelchair accessibility, shorter waiting queues, longer appointment times, or specially trained staff to assist with vaccination. So some of the key milestones that we've achieved over the last 14 months of our operation is that we've assisted more than 20,000 people over the phone in our first year. We've had more than 400,000 people visit the Disability Gateway website. We've had 2.8 million people reached via our Facebook page. 95% of people that called the Disability Gateway and consented to a follow-up call just to check in and see how everything went, reported an improvement in their circumstances as a result of Disability Gateway's assistance. We achieved national standards for disability services certification 2 months after opening, and that was with a 100% compliance score and 0 non-conformances. And we consistently achieved a 40% increase month on month in inquiries during our first 6 months of operation. So that brings us to, I guess, the work that we're doing with culturally and linguistically diverse communities across the country, which has really informed our engagement strategy. So we are looking to continuously engage with organisations and communities that represent and are part of people that come from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. And this really looks at two main components of what we do. So our people, as well as our work in progress. So in terms of our people working on the front line, 40% of the Disability Gateway's Benevolent Society team come from a culturally and linguistically diverse background. And so with them, we speak a total of 16 languages right across our National Support Centre. And what that enables us to do is that if there is a language requirement that we can provide in-house, we can connect them through to a community services consultant that can speak that language if they're available. But if not, we can bring in a translating and interpreting services operator. 40% of the Benevolent Society's Disability Gateway Support Centre team identify as having a disability. And this was really important for the development of our service. So it means that the Disability Gateway service is being provided for and by people with disability to better meet the needs of the community. 75% of the Benevolent Society's Disability Gateway leadership team also come from a culturally and linguistically diverse background. So by having diversity at all levels within our structure, we're better to be able to work together, have different input that really contributes to the ongoing development of the service. So some of the work in progress that we've got, Misha has been very instrumental in actually designing a bespoke referral catalogue for people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. So this includes collating information on services that provide culturally safe supports. It could be providing their service in language. It could be looking at programs and services where Australian citizenship or permanent residency is not an eligibility criteria point. We're also looking at translating communication materials for our culturally and linguistically diverse audiences to ensure that we're really maximising our reach to be able to provide that support in language. And then through continued efforts, we will be having ongoing engagement with culturally and linguistically diverse associated peak bodies and organisations to ensure that we're able to effectively manage those relationships and better connect our clients from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds to the support that they're needing. So to give an example, or a few examples, I should say, about where the Disability Gateway has assisted people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, we've brought 3 case studies to this presentation. So the first one is we originally had a client who was originally from Poland and was ineligible for the National Disability Insurance Scheme. They did require in-home domestic assistance to assist them around the house. And so what we were able to do is we were able to connect that client to Community Connections, which is a South Australian state government funded program where they were able to receive 12 weeks of support and through their program be connected to more longer term ongoing support in home. The second scenario we had was we had a carer who called on behalf of their 64-year-old mother who was originally from Greece. Again, she wasn't eligible for the National Disability Insurance Scheme, but still required funding support for in-home support. So we were able to work with her, connect her back to the NDIS to get her access not met letter and then reconnect her back to MiAccess Care for an assessment and funding support. The third example is actually one that I had. So before Misha and I moved into the partnership role, we were both working on the front line. So I took a call from a client who was originally from China and who only spoke Cantonese. So she had an upcoming operation in hospital and she was very concerned that she wouldn't be able to make herself understood and also understand what the hospital staff were saying to her in return. So we originally connected via translating and interpreting services, and I was really able to work with her one-on-one to really understand what she was needing and how best the Disability Gateway could support her. After I got her consent to speak on her behalf, I was able to work with the hospital and identify that they had a social worker in the hospital that spoke Cantonese, and we were able to connect the two so that the social worker could be present so that our client could make herself understood and I guess communicate with her doctors and other clinical staff. So those are just a few examples of some of the work that we've done. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. If you've got general inquiries, we strongly recommend that you reach out to us via 1800-643-787, emailing disabilitygateway@benevolent.org.au, visiting our website via www.disabilitygateway.gov.au, or for any partnership inquiries, you're more than welcome to send us an email to partnership.dg@benevolent.org.au. So we'll be coming back to open up to see if we've got any questions.
I have a question.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Aliyah from ADEC. Are there any eligibility criterias or anyone? So I work with a lot of clients that either have a bridging visa or they're an asylum seeker. Is that something that you can also assist with as well, even though they might not be a permanent resident or a citizen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's no eligibility criteria to access the Disability Gateway. So what we do is we work with the individuals based on their circumstances. So what we do is we work to identify options and solutions that meet their needs based off of their circumstances. So there are programs out there that do require citizenship or permanent residency to be eligible for their service. So we do, I guess, work to identify those resources and pathways that they can access to get the support that they need. So they can give us a call and we work with them to identify those solutions. So we've got a research process. So if we can't give that first call resolution, we just collect all the information that's reasonably necessary to resolve that inquiry. We then de-identify the client and do outbound calls and research to different programs and services. And then we collect all that information about those pathways over a 48 to 72 hour period and bring them back to the individual.
Awesome, thanks for that.
Not a worry.
It's Pino here. Thank you. Great presentation, Mackenzie and Misha. I have a specific question around what you mentioned, Mackenzie, about the bespoke referral catalogue for courts. It's in the work we've been doing and that Bria will present later on, we get a lot of people asking us how to find a service which can deal with diversity or cultural diversity. I was just asking, maybe Misha, could you give us a little bit more information? How developed is that, and how I'm not suggesting that we bring it comprehensive, but how's that going? And have you been able to identify services, and are they willing to identify their cultural capability?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So to answer effectively, it's still in early stages of development. So last year was really focused around the COVID-19 pandemic, where 2022 is really bringing us the opportunity to focus more on the key cohorts that we're looking to engage with. So First Nation communities, people from culturally linguistically diverse backgrounds, as well as people that identify LGBTIQ. So where we've gotten to is having initial consultations with the relevant ethnic and cultural councils of the country to really identify what are some of the needs that are really important for people from colored backgrounds, and conducting consultations with our frontline staff.
Just wait a second. Can I please ask people to mute themselves? We got an extra noise.
Thank you. So what we're looking at also doing is then engaging our frontline staff from a process perspective to see what are the sorts of inquiries that they work with from people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. And so with these consultations now happening, what we're now doing is now putting all of that together to actually put together the resource document. So it will inform the training that our consultants have so that they're continuously providing a culturally safe service. And then it'll be through stakeholder mapping, engagement, and through some of the regular kind of work that we do as the partnership team to start putting together those resources. So It will be, I guess, twofold. So having the pathways in place for the organisations that provide a culturally safe service, but also looking at the development of our staff. So looking at their ongoing training and development. So for example, when they're conducting their research process, asking the right questions of providers and services to really do their due diligence when doing that research. So, you know, what supports are in place for people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. If there's a specific need of the individual, really being able to talk that through with the provider. And if it meets that need, we can then refer it to the individual. So it'll be looking at both internal and external kind of process development, but it still is in the early stages of having consultation. Now we're scoping, and then from there, we'll be able to determine more.
Right. Thank you.
One additional thing that I think maybe you might find curious about is that even though the resource will be used internally, we are aiming to develop an external resource as well. So a referral guide or a catalog, if you'd like to call it, that we'll be able to share with our external stakeholders. So certainly we can flag that for the future to keep you in touch.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think Osman has his hand up. Osman, would you like to ask a question? Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Osman and I'm from Cancer Council Victoria. And it's a very interesting service that you are already providing. I would really like to thank you for the great effort that you have been doing. I was just checking because, you know, like if there are additional stakeholders who would like to work with you in partnership with you in order to link up with CALD communities or CALD people with disability, and what kind of support you can give in order to connect these services to the CALD communities, and then especially that we are working with, we have like when we are working on the different cancer screening services where are not approached by people with disability, especially people with disability from CALD background, and like say we have like low rates of participation in bowel screening, cervical screening, breast screening among people with disability, especially those who are from CALD background. So I was looking for ways that how we can work in partnership with you in order to see that. And of course, I will try to use the email that you have already provided at the end of your presentation in order for further discussion. But at least if there is certain frameworks and general things from previous experiences that we might learn from and have an idea when we come to such kind of discussion. Thank you.
No, thank you for that, and more than happy to talk further. So we're more than happy to send out the presentation slides that we used after this session. So that'll have everything that we went through, but also have our contact details. So more than happy for you to reach out, and we're more than happy to discuss in further detail, you know, those opportunities. So it very much falls within the scope of what we do, and we'd be very happy to have a further discussion to see how we can work together on that.
Any further questions for Mackenzie and Misha? Sorry?
I think Aman's got a question.
Yes, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
Yeah. This is Iman. I'm the senior case manager working with a complex intensive and with SIS client, which they are intensive case support, complex needs. I have a client who she's actually on temporary protection visa. She was asylum seeker and she got a temporary protection visa at the moment. She's a very she has a brain injury. She needs the NDIS support, and after we have lodged the application, it has been approved they have found that she's not eligible, and they rejected her application, referred to her due to her visa. And I wonder if we are able just, like to look for another service for her, or do you have any other recommendation, regarding her disability?
Yeah. So that would be a really good example of if you were to give us a call, one of the consultants would be able to work with you or work with your client to really identify what they're needing. And then with whatever programs and services are available within their circumstances and what their situation is, they would be able to do that research. So they can call programs and services on their behalf, really ensure that meets their needs, and then they can bring that back to you. So that would be a really great example about the capability of Disability Gateway and that research process. So would really strongly encourage you to give the consultants a call.
Thank you so much. Are we gonna get all the information, like contact details after that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send out the PowerPoint slides to everyone here. I might send them through Nemo, if that's okay. Yeah, perfect.
All right, any further questions before we move on? I guess not. Thank you so much, Mackenzie and Misha. That was really excellent and very comprehensive, and we look forward to working with you further to assist our community.
Thank you so much.
We are a little bit ahead of schedule, but I'll now like to invite Lizzie, Elizabeth Castles from the Disability Liaison Officer Program. Lizzie is the Victorian State Coordinator for the Disability Liaison Officer Program. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much. Apologies, as I'm just getting myself back on camera. And I'll just start sharing the screen as well. Excuse me, fiddling in the background. Okay, is that up and running? Yep, fantastic. Okay, acknowledging that we are on many lands today, I would like to start by paying respect to the traditional and original owners of the lands that I am on, the Muwi Ngani people, and to pay respect to those that have passed before us, and to acknowledge today's Tasmanian Aboriginal community who are the custodians of the land. So thank you very much for the warm introduction and for including the DLO program in today's session run by the Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria. It's fantastic to see these sorts of sessions being run, and great to see that we're all becoming experts in the online forums. It was also great to hear from Mackenzie today for your presentation, because I know we often receive referrals from your team about the Disability Gateway, and I think opportunities such as this are great because we can demonstrate to everyone how we work together, and then the differences in our services as well, I suppose. Okay, so to start with the Disability Liaison Officer program, it's a Victorian initiative. So the Disability Liaison Officer program was introduced by the Victorian State Government in May 2020 as part of a really significant package of supports for people with a disability and vulnerable Victorians in the pandemic. So the Victorian Government recognised that people with disabilities have known difficulties accessing health services due to a lack of accessibility, due to experiences of discrimination, and due to a fear about whether they will receive safe and appropriate care. And this can be a range of things, not being able to find the appropriate interpreter to support you on the day, through to not being able to physically access a building as you may be in a wheelchair. So we know that in Victoria, 17% of people have a disability, and that only 10%, or just over 1.1 million Victorians with a disability, are actually eligible for an NDIS plan. So we're aware that there's a lot more work that needs to be done to be supporting those in the communities who have a known disability. So disabilities, or DLOs, as we like to call ourselves, aim to help people with disabilities access a variety of different health services, including vaccinations for COVID-19, which I will focus on a bit today. So DLOs can help with a variety of healthcare needs, including linking in with disability services. So DLOs can help you to get COVID testing, including helping you to find a local testing site, or helping you to get access to a RAT, or rapid access test. DLOs can also help you access treatment for COVID. So if you're a COVID positive, as well as accessing COVID vaccinations. DLOs can also help you to attend health clinics or hospitals, to link you in with local health services you might be able to unable to find yourself, or that you may not be aware of. And we can also support you while you are in hospital or in a healthcare setting. So this is a bit of a busy slide, so I'll do my best. So DLOs, our overall goal is that people with disabilities have the support, the resources and the assurance they need to safely access health services. And we have a specific focus at the moment on COVID-19 assessment and treatment. Our overall objectives is that there is dedicated support available for people with a disability to access COVID-19 assessment and treatment, that there are systems and supports in place to enable people with a disability to access the health services they require, and that also we're taking all the individual learnings we're getting from working with each and every individual, and we're using those to recognise overall systemic barriers to accessing a health service. And we're making sure that these are systematically addressed, or that they're addressed holistically, not just for one particular individual, but the learnings from all of those individuals are combined to make greater service accessibility for all. So where can you find a DLO? DLOs are employed by health services right across Victoria. And the beauty of the DLOs is that they have specific local knowledge regarding all the health services in their area, and specifically vaccination services in their own areas. So wherever you are in Victoria, it doesn't matter, a DLO will be able to assist you to access a health service or a vaccination appointment. And since June last year, we've already assisted over 10,000 Victorians with disabilities and their carers access specifically a vaccination appointment, which is great. So DLOs work with people with disabilities, their families, guardians or carers to identify what their individual needs are, to make sure that we're working in the best approach for you or for those that you're supporting, and to make sure that we're helping you access the health services that will work for you, or that are identified as by you as your need. We do not require proof of disability or a diagnosis to provide support. It is a free service funded by the Victorian State Government, and we're the only one of our kind in Australia. So DLOs understand how disability services work in with health services, or that intersection, I suppose. DLOs come from a variety of healthcare and disability professional backgrounds, and have worked with people with disabilities, including both adults and children. So we have a variety of different clinical backgrounds, such as occupational therapy is my own. We have nurses, social workers, neuropsychologists, and disability aides, disability teachers, just to mention a few, I should say. So not only do we have clinical experience of working with people with a disability, but many of us also have lived experience of our own disabilities, or we're carers for our own little ones or family members who have a disability. So we're used to approaching things from both sides, I suppose. It's important to note that DLOs are not doctors, and we are not the ones actually providing the health service. So we're not doing the operations, we're not doing the COVID vaccinations, We're not doing the blood tests, for example, but what we are is really that pathway or that navigator to help you to link in with the services that you need. As I mentioned, at the moment, DLOs are really specifically focusing on increasing the vaccination rates across Victoria, as we know that unfortunately people with a disability, and especially those with both a disability and from a non-English speaking background, have lower vaccination rates than the general population based on NDIS data. So DLOs can assist with vaccinations. We can be present on the day to support a vaccination. However, most of the time we're assisting in the preparation stages or the background. Sorry, was that a question?
I'm zooming now. And then after that, straight back to that, I've got another Zoom. So it's just...
Not a question for me, no?
I know.
Are we able to put people on silent? Nope, that's okay, it stopped. I'll keep going. Sorry, everyone. DLOs, as I said, can actually be present to support a vaccination on the day. However, most of the time we're assisting in the preparation stages. So, for example, we might be working to make sure that we've got the appropriate interpreter present on a day, or working with cultural leaders to make sure that a vaccination clinic is going to be set up appropriately for those who it's aimed for. But DLOs specifically for the disability component are really working with people to make sure that they've got the resources they need on the day. So that might be choosing the appropriate site, working on a social story, or working to make sure that any other specific needs are met, for example, that you would prefer, or for cultural reasons need a male vaccinator or a female vaccinator, for example. So again, we help by listening to you about what does and doesn't work for you or your family member. And then we use our clinical reasoning or our knowledge of the health system to make sure that you're linked up with the appropriate services. So I just wanted to share the next slide, and all of these will be made available for you after the session. This is just a long list, apologies, of resources that are currently available for people with vaccinations, and many of these are also available in languages other than English. So the Victorian Department of Health has partnered with advocates and experts to develop some really useful resources specifically for vaccination. And the first one here that I want to highlight is an immunisation planning tool or a fact sheet, which really steps you through the different level of vaccinations that can be provided, including how to get in touch with the DLOs. This is a really helpful resource because it clearly it talks to you about the different options that you may have and different ways to actually work in with the vaccination clinics as they are at the moment. Another resource that's useful for a wide range of people is a social story, and we've partnered with Amaze to produce these, who are the peak body for autism. So a social story clearly steps out the process of getting vaccinated, so it makes it really clear for you to understand what you should expect on the day. So these are an excellent resource for you to use to know what to expect on the day, to work in with someone you may be caring with so they can know what to expect on the day, and also if you're caring for someone to help you answer their questions about what they're going to expect. We also know that getting vaccinated can be quite anxiety provoking for both the individual and the person that they're caring for. So anything we can do to provide information in advance, such as the social story, can be really advantageous. So DLOs can assist to make bookings across a variety of settings, including with local GPs, Aboriginal community health services, pharmacies, vaccination hubs, low sensory clinics or accessible clinics or drive-throughs, or through offering mild sedation for those who require it, or in-home vaccination for those who meet the eligibility criteria. We've heard lots of positive outcomes from our 7 designated accessible clinics, low sensory clinics, I should say, which are available across the state. And we've had numerous interpreters attending these sites, And I've also had days where we've been able to organise community groups who speak the same language to actually come in for a particular afternoon where we've got an interpreter that's well known to that community coming in to support, which has been really great. With regards to the low sensory clinics or the accessible clinics, we know that what is a sensory challenge for one person is different to that of another person. And we also know that those who have experienced or continue to experience post-traumatic stress disorder, for example, may have a lot of trouble entering a clinical or hospital environment. So we've worked really hard to make sure these low sensory sites are as least clinical as possible, I suppose. So to make sure that they have lowered noise levels in them, have dim lights, and have a variety of different inputs in place to reduce sensory demand on people. The low sensory clinics have longer appointment times and are generally a lot smaller than the large clinics that you may be aware of. So there's fewer staff being around, but of course there's enough staff there to make sure that it's a safe experience. It's also worth noting that they've got things such as beanbags on the floor or egg or nest chairs, so you can get vaccinated or the person you're caring for can get vaccinated in a position that they find comfortable, for example. Staff in these clinics have generally had more experience in working with people with disabilities, and have got a wealth of experience in working with interpreters as well. Many of these staff took up the opportunity to undertake further training, which was provided by MAIS. So they're particularly familiar with working with the autistic community, which is really fantastic, as that's one of the bigger disability communities that we have in Victoria. So as with all clinics, but especially in these clinics, we really encourage you to empower the person you're supporting to get vaccinated to know the best way to communicate with them. So whether or not that's verbally through an interpreter or written through an interpreter, let us know so we can organise the appropriate needs for you, because you deserve the right to have to be consenting and to receive this treatment within your primary language. So you will always know, or your services will also know the person better than the DLOs ever will. So we really want to hear from you what your needs are so that we can then work out how to meet them best. As an example, for one individual we were supporting, she was from, I won't give away her nationality, but she was a lady that had recently come to Australia under some pretty traumatic and trying conditions. And she had a lot of anxiety generally, but particularly regarding actually entering a facility to provide any kind of medical assistance or intervention. With this particular lady, we supported her to actually come and visit the vaccination site 5 times before she even felt comfortable to come in through the door. Each time she worked with the DLO to come to the site, to become familiar with the site, to come up to the door, to see how it sounded, to see how it felt. And we produced a particular social story just for her so she could get a good understanding of what it was like on the inside of going into that facility. Although it sounds like it was a lot of visits, and people have said, well, that's a lot of work for just one person. We think that it's absolutely critical that we're doing this sort of background work to make sure that people feel comfortable to actually engage in health services. On every one of those occasions, we had an interpreter with her, and it ended up being the same interpreter that was coming with her, which was fantastic because they could also form a bit of camaraderie. And on the 6th visit, I believe it was, she actually went in and was able to get vaccinated and felt really comfortable with actually being in an environment that she had become familiar with. And she developed that trust and rapport with the DLO and the vaccination service, that she's also now agreeable to looking at other health services that she might need. For example, linking her in with a dentist, and also getting some bloods for her because she believes that she may be diabetic. So it's been a great way for us to introduce her slowly to some medical intervention, I suppose, in Australia, and to give her the confidence that she's needed and reduced anxiety to actually enter an appropriate setting. So the easiest way to book into one of these low sensory clinics is to make a referral through to the DLO program, and we can help to find a site that is close to you and that will work for you. It is also worth noting that there is a pathway available for those who may require a low level of sedation or a level of sedation. So we tend to find that this is especially relevant for people who have got really significant sensory sensitivities, extreme needle phobia, those who have had a very negative experience with health service in the past, have post-traumatic stress disorder and or anxiety, creating a significant distrust or anxiety in the health service. So again, I do encourage you to have a look at the website, which is vaccination information for children and teenagers about needle phobia. But this also has the information regarding how to contact a DLO. So how do you contact a DLO? So to request the assistance of a DLO, you can self-refer by completing an online referral form, which is available at www.coronavirus.vic.gov.au/vaccination information people disability. And I'll make sure I put the link in the chat once I finish presenting. You can also email us at dlocoordinator@dhhs.vic.gov.au, or you can call the hotline on 1800 675 398. And there is the option, of course, on there to select an interpreter who can then help you make a referral through to a DLO. When you are making a self-referral, please, of course, let us know your preferred communication method. So whether or not that be email or text message, and let us know your preferred language as well, so we can organise an interpreter for working with you. It's worth noting, just because you do have a disability or someone you care for does have a disability, doesn't mean that you need to access our service, particularly for a vaccination, but you are, of course, absolutely welcome to. So I guess just to summarise, the key messages regarding the DLO program are that any Victorian with a disability can use the program, and there's no proof of disability required to access our care. DLOs are employed by the health services right across the state, so it doesn't matter where you live in Victoria, a DLO will be able to assist you. DLOs are health workers who can help link you in with health services, but they will also work in with disability services to make sure that you're cared for holistically. DLOs are not medical doctors. We're not the ones providing the medical care. We're the ones linking you in with the care. And again, to refer to a DLO, you can complete the referral form, which I'll pop in the chat, or you can email us on dlocoordinator@dhhs.vic.gov.au. And I'll stop sharing my slides there. I'll try to stop sharing. Were there any questions for me?
Thank you for that lovely informative presentation. I just have a question regarding the antigen test. Do DLO officers provide support around that? Because for a person without a disability, that can be quite tricky. So you can imagine someone with a disability would be even harder. So do the DLO officers actually provide support around that, or is it just there's someone else that can provide that support?
I'm sorry, it was a bit echoey, but I think you were saying do DLOs provide support for people who actually need to do a rat test? Is that the
That's
question?
correct. That's correct.
Sorry, it's just echoey. I don't know if it's me. Look, they certainly can, and I guess the beauty of the DLO program is that we do link in with lots of different health services across Victoria, so we know where the support can be found across Victoria. So I guess to answer the question in two parts, at the moment, RATs or rapid antigen tests are being provided by quite a few different sources. So they're being provided by some disability organisations. Also, they're being provided by testing sites. So if you need to go and get a test or a PCR test, you can also pick up a RAT or a rapid antigen test at that site. The DLOs also have access to a small stash of RAT tests, which we can provide if an individual cannot find a RAT through another source. So DLOs can help with, they wouldn't actually be completing the RAT on your behalf because it is normally, completing it for you, I should say, because it is something that should be completed by an individual or by one of their carers. But the DLOs can certainly help with the education piece about how to actually do the RAT itself. We have released a podcast called Reasonable and Necessary, which is a production of the Summer Foundation, where one of the DLOs works with Dr. George Telopoulos, who's a disability advocate in Victoria. And the DLO works over the phone or through a telehealth platform, I suppose, to instruct the disability support worker actually how to complete the RAT test itself. It is worth noting that if you do not, if an individual does not feel that they're able to complete the RAT themselves or that their carer is not able to complete RAT themselves, there is an ongoing COVID testing at home service, which you can self-refer through to via the 1-800 number, or a DLO can actually help to link you in with that service as well. So to summarise, the DLO won't do the test for you, but they can certainly help with finding a RAT test and stepping you through how to do it. And if needs be, that could obviously be including through having an interpreter on the phone to assist with that process. Does that answer your question?
Yep. No, thank you very much.
Okay.
Does anyone else have questions for Lizzie?
I guess if there are no further questions, just a shout out to, if I know we've got a mixture of individuals as well as organisations here today. So if there's an organisation you're aware of, or like the Cancer Council question earlier, if there's a particular health intervention or service that you're trying to let the disability community know about, feel free to get in touch with our service, because we're often assisting people to link in with health services, and we do know that the disability communities, particularly the non-English speaking disability community, often don't have high engagement rates with some of the standard screening processes that we'd like people to be involved with. So do reach out and let us know. And equally, if you're aware of a particular community that doesn't have fantastic vaccination rates, and you're interested in having a specific clinic or having a clinic run one day where you have community representatives there, for example, please let us know, because we're really keen to work in any creative way we can to get better outcomes for Victorians with disabilities.
Yeah, I think we have a question from Katie. Unmute yourself, Katie.
Hi, thank you. Great presentation, Lizzie. I'm from Southeast Public Health Unit from CEFU, and one of my portfolios is supporting disability and access and engagement for disability in this region. So just interested, because both of the talks today have been really insightful to me, how many resources are out there, just ensuring that we share those appropriately with our community members and engaging people. Do you work, just also, it was a great talk from Mackenzie. Have you worked closely with the Disability Gateway as well? Just wondering, they both sound like really valuable services for the population of people and supporting families and family members with people with disability. Do these two organisations link in well together and have had much to do with each other? I'm new to this area, so I'm just sort of getting my head around what works well and how to ensure that that information gets shared appropriately with our bigger CEFU population.
Katie, was that for me? Maybe I'll start. And
well, yeah, Lizzie,
feel free to jump in. Look, I think it's first of all, it's worth acknowledging there are so many different services working in this space that it can be hard to work out who does what and whose responsibility is what. And I think particularly in this pandemic environment, there's been lots of fantastic services that have come on board that are offering specific pieces of the puzzle, I suppose. With the disability, and Mackenzie, jump in if I'm saying anything inappropriate or incorrect. I think it's worth noting the Disability Gateway is an Australian-wide service, whereas the DLO program is a Victorian initiative specifically set up to support Victorians. So I think, we get quite a few referrals, particularly from the Disability Gateway, for people accessing more of their health services or to access a specific health services rather than a disability service as such. And I think for a lot of the really tailored or really specific vaccination needs, so some of the in-home requests or the sedation requests or the specific low accessible site, that's probably where Disability Gateway sends a lot of those referrals to us. Is that fair, Mackenzie?
Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, so that's
it's
exactly
like we rehearsed it.
Yeah. No, so that's exactly right.
But I think the important point, Katie, is, well, from my perspective, the important point is that neither of our services are wrong. We're both reasonably open doors, and there is a bit of, backwards and forwards. Can you help with this? Can you help with that? So I think between the two of us, we'll generally find out what the answer is going to be for a particular individual. Katie, it's a great point you make regarding the sharing of resources, and I guess particularly those resources available in different languages. There is a great stakeholder resource pack website available through the Victorian State Government, which if you're not looks like you are a member of, but if anyone here isn't linked up to that, let me know, because it's a great repository, I suppose, or place where lots of these different resources are positioned. I think it's also worth noting at the moment the DLO program is looking at developing more information in other languages, including Easy English, and we're close to launching a Auslan DLO video, which gives a bit more information about the DLO service in Auslan, which is great. But particularly with vaccination, we're really mindful of the key languages in different areas and making sure we're communicating as best as possible in the most appropriate language. So again, if you're aware of a gap in your area, let us know how we can support you and work with you. Yeah. And Katie, I know the DLOs out at CEFU and Monash are doing a great job, and have certainly been looking after a lot of the complex health needs of Victorians, which has been fantastic to see.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Lizzie, Hi, it's Yusuf again. Just wanted to ask you, one, if a person with a disability is living on their own and they've got COVID and they need to isolate, do you guys provide support around grabbing supplies and testing and stuff like that as well? And if so, how long does it take for a DLO officer to make contact with that person? How does that actually happen? How does it work? Can you share some insight about that?
Oh, that's a complex question. Absolutely. So again, this is a situation where the DLO or the individual may contact the DLO. We may not be, or we're unlikely to be the one providing the service itself, but we're that linking piece, I suppose. So we're the steps in between all the services. So at the moment, for people who are COVID positive in the community, there's a significant COVID positive pathways piece of work that's happening, which actually supports people in the community regardless, when they're COVID positive. So what this service does is it's actually run through the health services. They provide lots of monitoring for an individual, and they'll do a really comprehensive assessment at the beginning in the appropriate language to work out what that person might need. Is it that they need wraps delivered? Is it that they actually need meals delivered? Is it that they're normally a carer for someone else, and that person now isn't actually going to be cared for because that person has to isolate? So I guess in that situation, absolutely, you can call the DLOs to help support and to make sure that the individual is in the COVID positive pathway. But again, that's where the DLO is more that referrer or that navigator to make sure the person is within the appropriate service. Yeah.
Thank you, Lizzie, and I'm aware of time. So I would like to thank you for joining us today and doing this great comprehensive presentation. Lizzie, as a woman with disability myself who has experienced challenges accessing the health service, I can understand how valuable this service is to the community. And I really encourage people to reach out to the Disability Liaison Officer program for assistance. The assistance you get might not be exactly what you want, but like Lizzie has shared, it will be the link to services you could use to assist your life. Thank you so much, Lizzie. And we are going for a short break. We'll see you at 11:45. Thanks, everyone. Thank you and welcome back, everyone. We will give everyone to rejoin, maybe extra minutes, and then we'll take it from there. I hope everyone had time to stretch their legs. Somebody's doing. I just wanted to remind everyone to please stay muted. When the presentation stops, you can ask questions, but please, it would be really ideal if we can have microphones muted during the presentation. And also, if you can't hear me or if my voice is not clear enough, just type it in the chat box, and we will sort it out for you. And now I would like to welcome our third presenter, Ria Singh and Pino from Cultural Perspective. Cultural Perspective, known as MiAccess, is a website developed by Cultural Perspectives that brings together available translated information relevant to people with disability from culturally and linguistically diverse background.
Thank you very much, Nemo. And I don't blame you for not trying to pronounce Pino's last name. But we will introduce ourselves. But before I start, I too would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation on which we are gathered here and pay my respects to the elders past, present, emerging, and also to those of you who are joining us here today. My name is Singh, and I am the engagement lead at Cultural Perspectives. And I am joined here today with Pino.
Migliorino.
Please introduce yourself.
Oh, right. I'm the Managing Director of Cultural Perspectives and have had a very, very wonderful long-term relationship with the Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria, and so pleased to be welcomed by them here today. Thank you. As well as obviously acknowledging country as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And what we will be doing now is just sharing our screen. But I too just wanted to share with you all, if at any point you cannot hear us clearly, please do let us know in the chat function. But I think we've got the okay now. So I will share my screen. Perfect. Now we'll hand over to Pino to give you a quick introduction to Cultural Perspectives, who we are and how the MiAccess project came about.
Thank you, Ria. I'm very happy to be here and presenting. So Cultural Perspectives is a company that I was able to found in 1994. Prior to that, I had various roles in government, in the non-government sector, the Office of Multicultural Affairs, the Ethnic Affairs Commission in New South Wales, and I was the Executive Officer of the Ethnic Communities Council of New South Wales in the mid-80s, which does make me very old and about to, should be retiring. No, I'm very excited about the work we get to do. So the company itself is I love it. We're not a non-for-profit, we're a private company, but I do believe we have purpose. And our vision is, and I will just mention these two, not the values, but that we've worked very hard on this. A nation that honours its first people, recognises the reality of its complex diversity and supports self-determination as a fundamental right. And our mission really gives voice to what we're going to be talking about today. Our mission is to be a bridge between diverse communities and government, civil society and the corporate sector through culturally safe exchanges of information, stories, experiences and insights. Thanks. So there are a whole range of things we do. At the moment, obviously, the work around MiAccess is really important, but we work across many, many areas. So our big suites of activities, we do a lot of work around multicultural communication and are currently working on many, many campaigns. Our staff at the moment are all on election ready alert. We do all of the multilingual work for the Australian Electoral Commission, and you'll be flooded with multilingual information as soon as an election is called. And so across the range of activities, we do work across marketing, engagement, public relations. We have our own translation service and a very significant research team in the form of a group called Circa Research. So it stands us in good stead in terms of what we're doing. Thanks. So what we did, and I am going to hand over to Ria just in a second, but I just wanted to give you a sense of this. There has been, from our perspective, and certainly from my perspective, a major deficit around the ability to access the NDIS for ethnic communities. Back when I was the chair of the Federation of Ethnic Communities Council, after the advent of the NDIS, the number of or percentage of people who should have been on the NDIS from call backgrounds, or who were on the NDIS from call backgrounds, hovered just below 1% to just above 1% in the first 2 years. There is a far cry between what the needs are and what the service sets are. So we have been really concerned to, as service providers still, but to be advocates in our own way about the need to address this imbalance. In keeping with that, we applied to the NDIS under an ILC grant, and we were funded for 3 years for an information project under the multilingual information component of the ILC. And on that basis, I will hand over to Priya.
Thank you, Pino. And it's really wonderful to see today that we have with us both people with disability, carers, community, and service providers. Because as you can see on the screen, the purpose of the website, MiAccess, has been developed to, again, address the lack of access to information about disability and NDIS in languages, but also to improve understanding within CALD communities about the NDIS and its supports. And the website itself has been developed in a way in that someone with disability can also access, someone who is a carer of a person with disability can access information, but also for service providers who may be seeking information or resources in another language to support their clients. So what did we do? Essentially, as soon as we received the ILC grant, we went into development of this website, and we first undertook a resource mapping exercise in which we canvassed through, did multiple months worth of searching on the internet for available translated information and resources on disability areas, as well as the NDIS. Now, I pay quite an emphasis to the fact that it took us months on end to find as many resources as possible, because what we were able to determine during that process was, as someone who was proficient in English and able to access digital services, we too struggled in finding these resources, and therefore made the purpose of this website so much more important. In addition to finding and accessing available translated resources, we also, due to our wonderful translation services in-house, were able to partner with peak disability bodies to then translate either any information that was in English and required translating, or able to support the peak body in further translating any existing materials into an additional 10 languages. The purpose of all of this was to ensure that MiAccess was able to sit as an information hub, hosting all of the translated resources relating to disability and the NDIS. What we would also like to acknowledge here is that any of the resources that are currently on the website link directly back to the organisation or the peak body, who is the owner and producer of the resource itself. We also ensure that any of the translations for any resources that were co-designed with cultural perspectives and a peak body were undertaken and developed using NAATI accredited translators. Further into the presentation, we will show you what the website looks like and ask you all to participate in a really short demonstration in which you will be able to see the website in its glory and its many translated versions, which again is not Google Translate. It is all completed in-house by NAATI accredited translators. Now, unfortunately, we are meeting today online, but as a supplementary activity using our multilingual program, we have also been able to develop a virtual reality experience on autism and families accessing the NDIS. In developing the virtual reality experiences, we wanted to identify and acknowledge and bring to attention the power of storytelling and use it as a powerful motivator and tool to increase the understanding, awareness, and information to the NDIS available to CALD communities. What we also wanted to ensure was that there was an opportunity for us to bring to life the stories of culturally and linguistically diverse families and a child with autism and let their voices be heard and create that relevance. In developing the virtual reality experience, which you can see myself and Pino in the top right corner going through with our goggles, we went through and have sourced families from our own stakeholder networks to then have them share their own stories. Below Pino and I, you will see two frames. The first of Jonathan, who is a Cantonese-speaking Chinese man, and his parents in the background, who tell us the wonderful experience that they have had in accessing the NDIS and the supports in which they were able to receive, and have Jonathan excel in his musical abilities. He even performed at one of the Vivid shows in Sydney. And then below him, we have Brendan, who is a Punjabi-speaking boy from an Indian background, and his parents, who talk through about some of the difficulties that they experienced in having Brendan start school. And then once they were able to seek and get support from the NDIS, how Brendan was able to flourish and become an amazing artist. So essentially, with these virtual reality experiences, what we have been able to do is deliver really engaging information sessions with communities. And unfortunately, because this is the first series of these virtual reality experiences, we have been limited in 5 language groups only, which is Cantonese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, English, which represents the Indian community, and then Arabic as well. So then what have we done? We take our goggles, as you can see on Pino's head above, and we take them to community groups. We present to them the website, take them through everything, and then have them connect with the experience in which they are essentially immersed in the homes of these families. By the end of the experience, I will share with you a really lovely story where we first had the experiences delivered to a group of Arabic-speaking mothers and carers who, by the end of the experience, came to us and were so willing to share their stories, which at the beginning of this entire process, we found to be quite difficult. But what we found by that process was that in having these stories represented and shared with the community, there was so much more willingness and acceptance of disability and just awareness within the community. We also recognized that there was quite an interest in the NDIS, and therefore we were able to get people and connect them with these information resources. Now, today we're here in Melbourne with Nemo and the ECCV team, but along with this, we have also been going around Australia when we have been able to, and we have been able to present at disability expos. We have been able to participate in a wonderful workshop with Yusuf as well last year, as well as ensuring that the website itself is communicated as widely and thoroughly as possible. We have undertaken a digital and social marketing campaign, which, as Pino referenced earlier, we do have an in-house team of specialists who can put anything onto any platform. So for any of you who are here today and maybe users of WeChat or Weibo, we do also utilize those platforms as well as the traditional Facebook, Instagram, anywhere and everywhere, with the intention of ensuring that this website reaches as many of our community members, service providers, and people with disability and their carers as possible. Now, the website itself, we've been talking it up and we can assure you it is amazing. Essentially, the website is a hub where you, your carer, or your community member and service provider can find translated resources on disability and the NDIS. The website, as mentioned, has hosted newly translated materials from peak disability NGOs, but also has filled the gaps in current and where different communities have varying access to resources. An example of this is in sourcing information about an acquired brain injury. We found that there were no available translated resources. And what we undertook was to partner with Brain Injury Australia to co-design and produce a really simple fact sheet on acquired brain injury. The fact sheet was developed and then translated into 10 languages, which Brain Injury Australia have been able to utilize themselves, but then we have also been able to host onto the website. The next and most important part of developing this website was to ensure that the website was easy to navigate and accessible for anyone, whether that be a person with disability, whether it be someone with low English language proficiency, but also digital literacy. The website, as we'll take you through, has been designed with accessibility in mind, is available in multiple languages, and meets the WCAG accessibility guidelines and is appropriate for multiple audiences. The languages that the website is available in, you can see on the screen here, we have Arabic, Chinese Simplified, Chinese Traditional, Dari, Korean, Persian, Punjabi, Spanish, Thai, Vietnamese, as well as English. And this group of languages were predetermined using a really thorough data analysis process, which has been underpinning the whole process of this entire multilingual campaign. And what we have also done is, apart from the 10 languages that the website is accessible in, you will be able to access resources in over 55 languages. We'll need to change that. This is, again, an ever-changing, ever-growing website. So for anyone joining us here today as well, we have heard from everyone, and we know that there's so many resources that have either been developed in the past 2 years or are currently being developed. And we would want to ensure that we could link any and every resource on this website to ensure that there is accessibility for all. Now, the fun bit. The fun bit is, on your screens, we have a QR code. Now, for anyone joining on mobile, I do apologize, but for anyone that is joining from a screen, a laptop, PC, I would encourage you to scan the QR code. Pino's scanning my screen as we speak, and follow the link onto the MiAccess website. Now, I will take you through the website myself, so 1 second. Now, once you enter the website, you will be taken to a page that is loading as we speak, and this is what it will look like. So upon scanning your QR code, you'll be welcomed to MiAccess, and here you can see we have a drop-down menu bar of all of the 10 languages that we referenced earlier. Now, initially, I'll take you through the website in English, not Farsi first. But I will say, did anyone notice, as soon as we selected Farsi, our button prompting us to enter the website, this yellow button here, also changed in language. Now I'll take you back to English, and we are going to enter the website. I can see some heads down, which means you are all following along on your mobile, which I love. Now, upon entering the website, again, you've been welcomed to MiAccess. At the top bar here, we have a whole series of different options for you to go through. First, we can see about MiAccess. Using MiAccess, a little bit of information about our virtual reality, FAQs, and a stakeholder kit. Now, I will take you through each page just quickly to touch on, but about MiAccess, here we've taken you through what this is, how it works, And one really important thing to note is for those of you who have accessed this on your mobile, it is completely accessible, but you are also able to download a mobile application. On the top right-hand corner there, you are able to select this function and the whole website will download directly onto your mobile phone as an application, which means as a user, you do not have to repetitively go back onto the website. It is there saved for you with all of the resources that you access. Now, using MiAccess, we have a few tips for you as to what are some of the processes, how to use it on a computer, how to use it on your mobile phone. You'll notice there are only 4 dot points against each of those instructions because that is how simple we wanted to make this website. Further along, we have our virtual reality, which for anyone interested, we are doing a roadshow across Australia. So we would love to present our virtual reality with any of you. And then we have an FAQ with lots of questions. Now, I am acknowledging that we are time poor today, so I will quickly go over to some of the other sections that we have about the NDIS. This page is incredibly important in that we have summarized a really short description as to what the NDIS is and provided a link for users to directly access the NDIS webpage. Furthermore, we have also linked direct resources on the NDIS on this page as well. So one thing you will notice is on any page that you access or anyone that you refer to access these pages, they will be immediately able to access any resources, any page, any resource. What we also wanted to ensure was that we have some of the key NDIS disability areas listed and available for users to utilize. First, I will take you through acquired brain injury, given it was referenced earlier. And what do we have? Upon entering and selecting a disability area, you're taken to a short summary as to what the disability has been described in within the NDIS. Furthermore, there is a direct link to resources. Now, you will notice there is only one resource here because, as referenced earlier, this is the first and only current resource on acquired brain injury that exists in languages other than English. So what do we get? You're on a resource page. Here you will see the same yellow button prompting you to select and enter the resource. This is the wonderful, wonderful resource that we happen to co-design with Brain Injury Australia in English. But if I take you back, you'll see it is also available in another 10 languages. And if I was to select the first on my list here as Arabic, it is the exact same resource that has been translated completely in Arabic. Now, this is just one example, but I will go back to the website and take you through one of our very important functions, which is find a resource. Find a resource page will enable a user to find a resource for either a specific disability area by a language, which I don't want to give you a headache, but this is an endless scroll of languages. So just a few to show you here. A user can also search for any keywords that they are either looking for or by a resource type. So just as another example, if I was to select a video resource and I was looking at the area of autism, upon hitting search, which again is the same yellow button, we find ourselves with a family journey resource. And again, we are taken to a language and resource page in which there is a description to the author, developer, producer of the resource, and then the resource itself, which I will just quickly show you, but I don't want to take you through a commercial. So we can move this along, skip this ad, and you will see we come into a family journey. A few final bits and bobs to show you is we do have, and this is quite particularly relevant for any of our service providers here, find a trainer. This is a really important piece to our website in which we have listed here experienced cross-cultural trainers and organizations who are experts in the area of cold disability and are able to provide support to you. You will see our name here as well, because we are the preferred trainers for the Disability Royal Commission and the New South Wales Ageing and Disability Commission, but so many more. And again, this is a growing list. So if there are anyone else online or anyone that you know of, we would love to also apply that to this growing list. And then final few things here, and very, very important. This is a section on disability within cold communities. Upon entering this section, we have focused on disability issues within cold communities, as it is a growing and is so relevant for the cultural and social considerations, given most of us here are all attending for this one purpose. What we have been able to do is source and host a series of publications that are papers, reports, research on the area of disability within cold communities. So we do highly recommend that if you are interested in learning more about the cultural perspectives, we do enter this page. And then going back, one of our very, very prized possession is that of a social model in disability and a resource that we're developing. I am being told that I'm running out of time, but this is a place to watch very, very immediately and soon, hopefully. We are currently working with the Diversity and Disability Alliance based in Sydney to develop a resource that explains the social model of disability as an important framework and something to consider and respond to within the context of culturally and linguistically diverse communities. The resource itself will be produced as a visual video piece and will bring and highlight the experiences of a person with lived experience of disability from a culturally and linguistically diverse background, speaking to their understanding and their interpretation of the social model of disability. I will end it there, but I do just want to show you one thing, the website in another language. As I mentioned earlier, the website is completely accessible in different languages. And here you will see what it looks like. We've taken you through all of these pages, but just as one short final example, this is one of the many different languages you can access the website in. I will stop. Thank you. There's a question from Chris.
Hi guys. I just want to say congratulations. That looks like such a fantastic resource. So Amaze works with autistic people in Victoria mainly, but also we provide support across the country, and just looking to see if we can stay in contact with you and talk about the sorts of resources that we have. Most are in English, but there's quite a few that are translated into Arabic and Vietnamese, and some COVID specific ones that are more broadly translated. But again, I'd love to touch base, and congratulations on that great work.
Thank you so much, Chris. And this is a perfect opportunity, really. We would really welcome any resources that you would like to host on the website. And what would be fantastic is, again, along with all the other presentations, we will share ours with the others. But Chris, if you could please send through in the chat function, perhaps just your contact details, that would be fab. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And with that said, I would like to thank Pino and Ria for this fantastic futuristic and engaging presentation, and I can't wait to hear more about this social model of disability. Really looking forward to it, which is my preferred model. Thank you so much. Before I open the discussion up to everyone else, I would now like to first invite Christian Astorian to add a few words. Christian is the program manager for diversity and disability. Diversity and Disability is a partner and a member of the ECCV, the Statewide Disability Network for Culturally Diverse Communities. As you know, this workshop is an initiative of the ECCV, Statewide Disability Network, funded by the Office of Disability from the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you, Nemo, and thank you for all the presentation that we have seen this morning, because they are really very interesting to see all the services and resources that are available to people with disability from all background and their families. Now, quickly, our diversity and disability program is part of the Migrant Resource Center Northwest in St. Albans, which is part of Melbourne. I am the program manager, and we support all people with disability to be more independent in their lives and to learn to advocate for themselves. So we provide a lot of different services in terms of support groups, specifically support groups on self-advocacy, so where people learn, for example, about human rights and develop skills on self-determination and control over their own lives. We do have also other groups which are more for fun and building up self-confidence. So, for example, we have a music group, an art group, woodwork group. And also we do have also more specific support group, for example, for women with disability from all background, where they can talk about more gender specific issues. In the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, we have moved a lot also online with our services. And this gave us also the opportunity to create our YouTube channel. And our YouTube channel ran on a fortnightly basis, and it is possible to follow our YouTube live and on demand. And the channel is all about talking about self-advocacy and human rights, and talking about issues that affect all people with disability in their everyday life situation. The last thing really that I would like to mention is that it's very important, of course, to have all the resources and the information that we can provide to people with disability and their family to make an informed choice and decision in their lives. But I also think it is important for people with a disability and their family to have the confidence to access the resources and the information. And that confidence can only come through a good relationship with the service provider. And this is what our program, Diversity and Disability, tries to do, to develop that kind of relationship where people feel comfortable to come and to ask for support and information. So thank you really for listening to me today. Yeah, I'm not too sure if there is any time for question or comment, but I mean, if not, I can provide my contact details, Nemo, and you can contact me anytime. Thank you.
5 minutes left, so if anybody want to quickly add to that, please do it quickly.
Could I just say, we're going to be sponsoring the FECA conference, so if anyone's interested in the things that Rita's talked about, especially the VR experience, we'll be demonstrating it at that conference in June in Melbourne. So hopefully look forward to meeting many of you in person.
Thank you so much. And once again, I would like to thank you all for joining. Please stay connected with us by subscribing to our NDIS Disability Bulletin and follow us on all our social media platforms. The ECCV website link should be on the chat, and Sharon is helping me with that right now. Thank you so much for assisting us today, Sharon, and a big thank you to our Auslan interpreters. You've done a fantastic job. We really could do it without your support. I want to thank all the presenters who are still here, staying and listening to the rest of the presentation. We really appreciate your time. And I think that's it from my end. Thank you so much for coming.